happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel. For today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Armada Hotshot. Now, I know this is one you guys have been really looking forward to, myself included. I am so excited for more Armada figures going forward, and I think they're one of the biggest draws that Legacy so far has had for us. So let's get stuck straight into the details. Here we have Armada Hotshot, and this is actually a really good figure. It reminds me of some of the older Transformers. Great thick plastic, awesome design for the most part, and some pretty decent gimmicks. Now, as we home in on the details, as you guys can see, looking really sweet. I mean, it literally looks identical to Armada Hotshot. I'll be sure to whack an image around about here just to showcase a direct comparison, but very nicely painted and detailed. The only thing which I kind of think is missing from the bot mode design would be the kind of arm kibble that he had in the show. For some reason, they've decided to smack it here on the back of the legs, which isn't a bad thing. It does spice the transformation up, makes it a little more different when in comparison to the original version, but as we just come down here to the front of the figure, I think that looks pretty nicely done. A slightly ugly angle as we come here to the inside. I mean, it would have been cool had they found maybe a way to have put these panels to cover up this section, but to be honest, it's definitely not the end of the world, and it doesn't actually restrict articulation either. And as we come around here to the back, as you guys can see, very solid. I mean, this guy does look sick. Now, articulation wise, I was quite surprised, I won't lie. To me, he's kind of chunky. I was expecting him to be quite limited, but for the most part, no. So here at the head, we do get a nice swivel. This can look left to right, probably could go the full 360 to be honest, and no hollow head syndrome at all. Complete, thick, durable plastic, which is excellent. The shoulders can hinge out to the sides. They can also rotate forwards and backwards, slightly compromised due to the big thick shoulder pads, but if you didn't like them, you can pop them off, and it does allow for a much greater range, which is nice. We do get a rotation here out of the bicep, 90-degree bend here in the elbow, no wrist rotation at all. Not entirely sure why they decided to cut that. I mean, maybe it's to do with this piece on the actual hand. Perhaps if they were to add a wrist rotation, this section maybe would have looked a little ugly, or perhaps they would have had to add it maybe in the center and it just wouldn't have looked right. I'm not too sure, but we do get a really nice waist rotation. This can go the full 360 Exorcist style. The hips can kick forwards that far, which is fantastic, as well as back to that far before some of the junk does hit into the upper piece. We can also kick them out to the sides. Full rotation here out of the thigh. Now, the knees upon first glance will look restrictive, but they're actually not. These pieces here you can swivel out to the sides to allow for a much greater range of motion. I mean, that is literally 90, so that's really cool. And with them attached, even then, you don't get a bad range at all. So I thought that was pretty sweet. And as you guys would expect, we do get some fantastic angle pivot, although depending on how far you bend that, it can begin to look a little funky. Now, getting down to the gimmicks of this guy, he does have the visor, which when retracted, kind of looks like he's wearing a set of Beats. I wonder what sick theme song he's listening to. Or alternatively, much like in the show, you can actually clip this down to reveal a really nice set of goggles, or I guess a visor, and I love the detail. Nice gunmetal, it's completely cast in transparent plastic too, so we do get this really awesome kind of blue detailing for where I imagine he would be looking out of, so that's nice. And his Evo Fusion gimmick is his Axle Zuka, as actually seen in the show, so we can just hinge this up, rotate this around. You want to make sure that these shoulder pads do stay clicked into place, and I really like this. I mean, it is a very cool weapon, something that I'm so glad they carried over from the original toy and from the animation, so that's pretty awesome. And accessory wise, we do get the double-barreled engine, which, as you guys can see, painted and sculpted really nicely. All of the weapons are blast effect compatible, including the Axle Zuka, although there is also something that you can kind of do to this guy. It's a little bit of customizing, you know, customizing does get you quite far, and basically what that is popping this here off the mushroom peg. So let's just gently slide that off, bring this here to the back, and what you can do is kind of cheat it. We take this here, make sure that we have the MechTech port visible, and then we smack this in like so, and then just angle the arms. Despite him not having a wrist rotation, surprisingly, you can get him into some pretty dynamic poses. Smack that in there, and as you guys can see, he has this massive kind of bazooka, machine gun looking thing. Personally, this is how I'm more than likely going to display him on the shelf. I just think that is such a cool configuration, and is definitely something you can do without any additional parts required, so very nicely done. Now, let's get down to some size comparisons. So kicking things off, we have him alongside the Earthrise Deluxe Class Sideswipe and the Voyager Studio Series Ironhide, and he's a big guy. For some reason I was expecting him to be quite small, kind of around the mini-bot scale, but no, he's actually bigger than what was our average deluxe scale, that being Sideswipe. Just to move Ironhide here off to the side, as you guys can see, maybe head to head if you were to count the goggles, I think he's just a smidge bit bigger, and in terms of heft, he's way thicker, definitely quite a thick release, but there's that comparison between these two figures. Let's go head to head. And for a few other comparisons, we have him alongside the Earthrise Leader / Voyager Optimus Prime and the Legacy Armada Starscream, and these two look so great together. Here's hoping that Megatron and hopefully Armada Prime are on the horizon, and I bet you guys thought I forgot, but no I didn't. Yes, you can actually give Hotshot the Star Saber that came with Starscream, and he looks super sick. I'm hoping that at the beginning of this video, you guys saw some of the gallery images, and I'm hoping I've been able to do this guy justice, as you can actually get him into quite a few fair dynamic poses. My only issue with accessories for this character would be that he comes with no minicon. There's no jolt included at all, which is unfortunate, especially considering he does have a minicon port in the exact same spot, at least in vehicle mode, to the original toy, but we'll get into that in just a second. Let's get down to transformation. Now, I don't think I mentioned it previously, but for whatever reason, if you really don't like the way these panels look, they are simply just on ball joints, so you can pop them off, and yeah, it makes him look a little cleaner, but to me, from the back, he kind of looks unfinished as he's got this huge gap, so I personally prefer just to leave them on. But let's get to it. So to kickstart things off, you're just going to want to disengage the shoulders and hinge these sections upwards. What we can then do is take the head, pull this forward, rotate this here into this hollow cavity, and just snap it there back into place. You'll then want to rotate the waist all the way around so that the front is now facing the back. We can then take the feet, click them. There is actually a tiny little circular port that is going to snap into that peg, so just snap that in there. Do the same here for this side. Fold down the toes just like this. What we can then do is come around to the front. You'll then want to angle the biceps around, so basically the top of the hand is facing inwards to the thigh, just like that. And now things do get a little complicated. I mean, this guy is pretty intricate, so you're then going to want to fold out these tiny little yellow panels, flip this around, and then rotate this here. And now what's going to happen is we're going to hinge at this joint inwards, rotate at the thigh, and just bring this here all the way up and over, just like that. Rinse and repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So take this tiny little yellow panel, flip that out, rotate this here on a ball joint. We can then disengage this double joint, rotate in at the thigh, and then just proceed to collapse this here in upon itself. Now there's a tiny little transparent peg that is actually going to hook over the top of this section, so snap that in there. We can then combine the two pieces just like that, and now basically come here to the rear of the vehicle, hinge this section up. These two tabs are going to shoot into some slots here, so let's just lift that up, snap that in there, and then these panels, as you guys would expect, will click very firmly into place. We can then take these sections, snap them in there, and then there are some tiny slots here on the back of the bicep that this section here is going to tab into. And check out the detail, really nicely detailed, although it would have been nice to have maybe had a little bit of black paint just to pick out some of the sharper details of the sculpt, but snap that all in, and then we basically have Hotshot fully transformed without the engine piece. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the original Armada toy, when you would peg this in, it would cause these sections here to flip forwards and have kind of chainsaw detailing. Sadly, they haven't kept the chainsaw detail, and it's something I think they could have done. I mean, come on, just a tiny bit of metallic silver just to vaguely resemble what the original toy had, I don't think would have gone amiss, but you can open them up much like you could on the original toy, so I thought that was a pretty sweet touch. But just take the engine block here, snap that into place, and there is Hotshot fully transformed up. And again, really does throw me back to the older Transformers releases. This is a very thick, very big looking deluxe. I mean, this guy looks sick. As we take a look at the details, I think the bumper looks very nice. As you guys can see, wicked translucent blue plastic. That is really nicely done. It's kind of opaque to the point where you can't quite tell what's going on in there. So I thought that was a pretty sweet touch, and for those who remember the old Human Alliance days, you can kind of fake it. You can actually swing the doors open, and if you have a minifig, you can have it kind of posed alongside this guy. It looks cool, but as we come up here to the top, the paint matching is slightly off, but that's just what we've come to expect with yellow paint. They can never quite get it spot on to match the colour of plastic, but honestly, not too bad. We get the Autobot logo there at the top, and like I mentioned previously, a mini-con port, but sadly no Joel. I am holding out hope that we can either get a multi-pack of some mini-cons in the future, much like they did for some of the Micromasters in the Earthrise line, or maybe a core class version of Joel. I just think that would complete the look, but as it stands, you can kind of fake it and bring in this Joel. It's my turn to combine, and you can just smack him there on the top, and there you've got Hotshot with his mini-con partner, Jolt. Now as we jump into a few comparisons, here we have the Armada Hotshot compared alongside the Kingdom Earth Mode Sideswipe and the Earthrise Optimus Prime. So again, like I said previously, a very big deluxe class, definitely quite thick, especially from the front, pretty nicely painted, can't really complain. And here is another side-by-side alongside Earthrise Optimus Prime, and of course I have to give you guys the complete Legacy Armada collection comparison so far. Here we have them alongside the Voyager Starscream, so these guys can continue their ongoing feud even when in their alternate modes. And so, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Armada Hotshot. Overall, I really like this. Definitely one of the better updated figures Hasbro put out for this Legacy line, and it's just so awesome to see Transformers Armada in 2022. I don't think anyone would have predicted this 3 or 4 years ago, so it's awesome to see these characters back, and back with a bang. I love Starscream, I really like Hotshot. Yeah, he has a few wonky angles, mainly in the inside of the leg, but nothing that is really going to turn you off this guy. He's pretty decently poseable, comes with a few funky gimmicks such as the flip down visor, the Axle Zuka, which you can actually dismount and turn into a massive rocket launcher, and in pure Hotshot fashion, he also has the double barreled engine. Sadly, he doesn't come with Jolt, but we'll no doubt see that guy in the future, especially considering they've smacked a great big Minicom port onto the back of the figure, so surely that means that he's coming. Come on Hasbro, please give us Jolt. But yeah, really nicely done figure. I would love to hear your thoughts on this guy down in the comment section below, and of course, let me know what you guys thought of the review. Until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.